that this is 14 3/4 inches by 10 inches. So these stories, these painted stories, were not assembled in a bound book. Instead, they are panels that are about roughly 14 inches by 10 inches, which was a size that could be held up to a small audience, let's say 20 people gathered in Akbar's court to hear the recitation of the tale. So this was a kind of passing of the image around with an oral performance on the spot in a kind of gathering that made these images about the sharing of a marvelous story, the viewing of wonderful art, but also a kind of sociability. Before Akbar commissioned the Akbarnama, he had the first painted story, the Hamza Nama, which details the exploits of a popular Muslim hero, Hamza, who goes about conquering, fighting off witches and correcting unbelievers, and in this case, killing a tiger. So these are sort of delightful folk stories that had not actually been written down traditionally. They were usually, told orally and performed, so that someone would perform this dramatic scene of Hamza slaying the tiger, and someone would get to dress up as the tiger, which is what I would like to do. So in this moment, Akbar is sort of having a vision of transferring this oral folk performative tradition into painted panels. From the Hamza Nama to the next important text, the Akbarnama, the story of Akbar's grandfather, we see a stylistic evolution. We see ever more intricate, marvelous details, a real kind of exquisite, fine pointedness to each element, and that is partly because Akbar has brought highly skilled Persian painters over to his court to start to contribute to his workshop. So it's a measure of how invested he is in art and wanting to actually, you could say, creatively contribute to the development of painting, that he has his imperial atelier, his workshop, the palace workshop of painters, and he's recruiting painters from the Persian court to get the best of the best who know that tradition. So by the time the Akbarnama gets underway, we have a real high level of achievement in the art that is thoroughly integrating the Islamic love of patterning, the high viewing point as if from above, the shifting viewing points, with the kind of South Asian, Indian traditional interest in very lifelike renderings of animals, so that the natural world is actually quite lifelike, whether it's the plants or the trees, and even some elements of European tradition, such as this degree of shading, are making its way in. So here in these two complementary or matched scenes from the Akbarnama, in which Akbar restrains the elephant Hawaii, I said that playfully. That's not Hawaii. Hawaii. We have a page in the history of the Akbarnama where we see Akbar doing this extraordinary thing, which is he is riding his elephant and he's catching hold of an elephant that's gone rogue, that's gone wild, and is trampling this pontoon. Look at the sense of action, right? Look at this guy sliding off the pontoon and hanging on for dear life. And this one is very funny, right? It's like a Marvel action movie. You have all sorts of incidents to discover as you look around at the chaos wrought by the elephant, but Akbar, steady on his elephant, is getting things under control. This is a marvelous metaphor for the ruler who can control the all of the turmoil that comes up in keeping the state on course. And so at the right, you have the witness to this, which is Akbar's prime minister, or vizier, using the rather arcane terminology that the textbook uses, which is Abul Fazl, who is the one who writes the Akbarnama. And here he is sort of pleading like, Akbar, don't fall off the elephant. And you see all of the other figures around him. He is oversized. That's called hieratic scale or hierarchical scale, because he's of central importance compared to the crowd of people reacting to the scene. So Abu Fazl was extraordinarily gifted intellectual, and he actually composed the Akbarnama out of using research and records, and really sincerely tried to account for the events the events over the course of Akbar's reign that led to his empire being so successful. He was absolutely flattering Akbar. This painting is certainly flattering Akbar. And yet he is also committed to kind of giving us the records of what it was that happened. And that's why we have scenes like this one of the construction of Fatehpur Sikri. We have scenes that are so interested in the facts, the details, the close observation of the reality of the process, right? So we can actually see the tools. We can see how the women here work, sifting away at the materials that are used for the bricks and the mortar. We see the way the plank is structured. We see the various different ethnic groups and genders and their different clothing. And so there's a real sense of kind of historical record keeping here that is very modern, and an interest in the reality of the physical world and everyday life that is also very modern.